Hey everybody, this is Stuff I Heard Podcast, and I'm your host, and we're going to hit record on this, and we're going to do this thing. So, I just happened to be sitting here with Danny McWilliams. Say hi, Danny.
Hey guys.
Danny is starting off his own YouTube presence, and he's on Instagram as well under the same name. It's Stuff I Kind of Care About.
Yep. It's Instagram, it's YouTube, it's actually Twitter as well. Just trying to be out there, be available so that people can get in touch with me and tell me things that they want to see me try to do and just be an idiot about.
And I've checked out your YouTube page, and right off the bat, I mean, you got people following you, and you seem to be really comfortable behind the camera. You made a vow book for your friends. You have another project that you're doing they seem to be integrated into this wedding that you're going to be doing. Is that right?
So it's actually two separate things.
Okay.
Two of my friends eloped last year, and that's who the vow books were for. They actually, I think this weekend they're doing wedding pictures and kind of doing some stuff with family. Mm-hmm. And they never really did vows for each other. So they wanted to be able to write vows for each other and then have them in something that they can keep for a long time. The problem is vow books are weirdly expensive. For something that took me like 10 minutes to make, they're like $20 a pop, like a set of vow books. It's on Etsy. They're all over Etsy. I priced them out and I was like, nope, I can beat that.
Yeah.
And plus I'm looking for, stuff to do on YouTube, and it was a great time with them. The other thing is I'm actually doing the ceremony for two of my friends at the end of this month. And so that's the hand binding cloth. That's the guest book that I just put up. I had so many issues with that video. Oh my gosh, dude! Like,
I think I actually wrote on your thing this morning. And I was like, well, you're a real YouTuber when you're like, dang it, I've had camera issues all morning. This is like the 20th video I've made.
Absolutely. Well, the problem is I've been filming on my phone.
Yeah.
And phones do this fun thing where they just decide to drop frames every once in a while. And so like my phone, like you'll watch like 7 minutes in, all of a sudden it'll drop frames, and then the video and audio don't line up.
Oh, weird.
And since it's all one file,
I don't know what you're talking about.
There's nothing you can do to fix that.
Apple phone. So.
Oh, I see how it is.
I'm just saying.
I'm using an Android. But I got a new camera. This is what we're filming on right now. So Hopefully this thing's going to treat me a lot better.
So hopefully what we're going to do is we're going to be able to simulcast this and publish it on both YouTube pages. So if you guys are watching this on Danny's YouTube, go to Stuff I Kind of Care About, and you'll see it on his camera, which is actually a Canon
Vixia. It's the HF-R800, I believe.
All right. So we're doing sort of a little test here while we're doing this interview podcast thing, just to kind of see, the comparison of the two, to see quality and whatnot, how they look, how they sound. We're using just the microphones on the cameras. And, obviously his is set up for an external microphone, which we can use on another experiment and just see how that turns out. But, part of this is that. So anyway, so Danny, I met you from King Hefe Taco. Like, I happened to walk in with my mom.
Absolutely.
Eating lunch one day, and you're behind the bar wearing a, dinosaur t-shirt or Star Wars or something. And conversation starts, as it often does.
I think the first, I like this dude moment, aside from the casual conversation, was your credit card.
The Darth Vader.
The Darth Vader card. I was like, ooh, we have so much we can talk about.
Yeah.
And and it's just turned into this very natural, very organic thing where, you come in every couple weeks, once a week, and every time we started talking a little bit more and a little bit more. And then the kicker is when you come in by yourself and sit at the bar, and then it's a slower day, and we can just talk and nerd out and get super excited. When
I'm with Mom, we've tried to set that up to where it's sort of like our moment to kind of have some time to talk and catch up, and it's fun to have that as a regular scheduled thing because we're both so busy, and the moment she can't make it, I still kind of want to go up there and have some tacos, and I thought, well, I'll go up there and see if Danny's there, and we'll sit at the bar and hang out and whatnot.
Everybody wants tacos.
Well, yeah.
But I think it's amazing that you're in a place in your life where you're taking that time and spending it with your mom. That's so cool, dude.
Yeah. And it just works out where, convenience-wise, she works across the street as a professor So, I mean, you know, she can take a lunch break, she can come over, get to hang out, and that's awesome.
Plus eat some awesome food.
Plus eat some great food, and every once in a while you hang out, and Kyle walks in, hey man, you know. so I mean, it's kind of it's become my cheers lately. I mean, it's the place I walk in, and I know people, and I'm like, oh, this is awesome.
Yeah.
But you know, from day one, I've tried to promote the place, and tell Florence, hey, by the way, go check out this place. I want it to stay here. Like,
oh yeah.
It during that time, I started thinking about the fact that you want to promote the positive. You know, there's plenty of negativity out there. There's plenty of people poo-poo and everything, and I'm like, why don't I just start making content and talking about things that I'm excited about? And you know, when we started talking, you were saying right away that you were into leatherworking and bookmaking, and you know, you were creating a short film and working on video games and wanted to get into blacksmithing. And I was like, oh, this guy's cut from the same cloth, man. I need to hang out with him because I'm in this creative zone of I got so much shit in my brain that I'm putting out that I can't seem to do fast enough. And I thought, what you want is a community of people who are also on the same wavelength.
Oh, absolutely.
Because then you end up inspiring each other, and you go, oh, I know how to do that, man. If you come over here, I'll help you do that. Or, you know, I'll come over to your place, we'll do this, you know. And so you can kind of work together to build up on projects and, you know, move things forward like that. So, I mean, you know, anytime that you can do that with other people, I highly encourage people to do that. I mean, we talked last time when you came over about community and how community is kind of the goal beyond the creating things and beyond the everything else. Community. I mean, we got technology in our pockets that we can communicate with everyone in the world, but we don't even talk to the people that stand in front of us sometimes.
That's something that like kind of like boggles the mind / drives me crazy is how easy it is to connect and yet how little we do. And that's really why I'm doing this. Like, you know, monetization, that would be great. Like all these things, that would be a ton of fun. Would I love to be able to make money doing this? Yeah, but my primary goal is, like you said, there's so much negative out there. I just want to put something positive out there. Yeah. Maybe it counters it. Maybe it changes the balance. And so it's...
Maybe you connect with some kid you never even talked to before, and they see your video, and they may live in Oregon or something, but they're like, holy crap, I'm into the same kind of stuff. Dude, I figured this out. Let me show you my video. And then you start to have like a camaraderie with people.
And for me, that's what it's all about is being able to connect with people. Yeah. Like I had a dude come into the restaurant the other day and he was like, hey, I watched a couple of your videos. Like, and he's a barber and he actually is like a traditional barber. He was like, dude, come over, let's do like a podcast style thing where I straight razor shave your head and we just talk about whatever we want to talk about.
Oh, that would be cool.
And I was like, dude, I'm in. Yeah, hey, so cool. I love a straight razor shave on my head. I don't touch this. The beard doesn't go away. But like stuff like that. And this is a dude that I know is awesome. I know him by reputation. I've never had a chance to really sit down and connect with him and get to know him. And I mean, I'm not at all big. I have like 60 subscribers. Like this is not a thing. But the fact that I'm doing it, the fact that I'm putting myself out there, that gave him that little bit of motivation to approach me and be like, yo, let's do something cool.
Yeah.
And so that's going to be something, and that's all I really care about. My goal with this really is, you know, the money would be cool, but the goal is to be able to travel and talk to other creators and, you know, take that trip across the country to go see this creator and learn from them and maybe teach them something in the process, but primarily just hang out and have fun and connect.
Yeah. Well, even before we even turned the cameras on, it was us talking about cameras and sound, you know, and quality and whatnot. And what about this and what about that? And
absolutely.
That kind of stuff. I mean, I like geeking out about that kind of stuff, and I'm sure that other creators do too. You know, one of the things that I heard Casey Neistat talk about, you know, once before was he's like, I just did this because I didn't know what else I was going to do. And I thought, if I have this compulsion to do it, I need to do it now. And he's like, you know, my dad got started literally by just saying, I'm going to put content out there. If people watch it, great. I don't care. I'm just going to keep making content.
Yeah.
Because, you know, we live so far away. He was like, this is a way I can share what I know with you. And I thought, that is really a way we can share what we know with each other. I mean, regardless of if we know each other or not. I mean, he started back in 2006, and I looked on his YouTube page today. He's getting close to 27,000 people that subscribe to him. I'm like, 27,000 people is a ton of people.
That's a lot.
But if you look at like, you know, the globe, you go, okay, well maybe that's not, you know, comparison to the globe, but there are people from all over the planet that go, hey, let's see what this guy's up to today. And they watch his videos on a regular basis, and I'm like, holy cow.
Right.
It's so awesome that you can connect to so many people. And he's like, yeah, I got people writing me from all over going, hey man, I'm thinking about building this thing, and you seem to know how to do it. You know, you got any suggestions? And he says he loves those. He loves to write those people and watch their videos and see what they're up to and be like, oh, that's so cool. I didn't think about that.
That's the most fun part about all of this,
Yeah.
you know, and the other thing that like really gets me going is I have my own creative process that has worked for me as much as it's had to for years. And the more I work with other creators, with other makers, with anyone, the more I can see other people's processes and be like, ooh, I'd never thought of doing things that way. Let me check this out. I pay a lot of attention to Adam Savage. Like, that dude's a monster. He's one of the best in the business. His passion is absolutely gorgeous. And just seeing his process of how he goes from inception to creation of these ideas, these crafts that he's doing, is super fun, because half of it's stuff like, oh, like that's how the pros would do it. Like, I'm that idiot that would add 18 steps to it and eventually end up with something okay. But just watching how seamless it gets for people that do this on the regular, I get to learn, and that's what this is about. I want to learn. I want to be that guy that is just passionate about life.
I find that when I'm sitting at the house, like, I don't really spend a lot of time relaxing because my brain's always going, you got to do research. Like, you're holding yourself accountable. You have a podcast that's literally called Stuff I Heard. So go listen to some stuff. Go watch some stuff. You got to have content to talk about. So I'm like, yeah, you're right. What's the new thing out? And I'll go, oh, this is so cool. And I get into it. But, you know, I guess in a way I've sort of created my own demand of what I need to do. And it's also buzzed into what I like to do. I mean, doing the woodworking, I had no idea I would get into that. But literally, I'll have a day where, you know, maybe I have nothing planned, and I'll go, all right, I got nothing planned. I haven't made a video today. I need to go out in the garage and mess with this wood.
Right.
It kind of motivates me to get off the couch and just go, all right, let's go out here and mess with this stuff. And I think a lot of people are missing that one element of motivation in their life that just says, hey, what are you doing? Get up. Go do something.
Absolutely. And like, that passion is something that becomes contagious.
Yeah.
That's something that I love about creating and making things is it's very much a team sport. You know, if you create and make in isolation, and good stuff can come out of that, but it's so hard to keep your pulse up.
Yeah.
It's so hard to keep your motivation up. But when you start talking to other people and see what they're working on, the desk that we're sitting at, the chair that I'm sitting in, looking at what you're doing and how motivated you are makes me be like, man, I shouldn't just sit here and binge watch this show. Maybe I should put in that research on the new camera that I'm going to buy. Maybe I should, you know, put in, Thursday was 8 hours of filming.
Yeah.
I used like 6.5 minutes of that.
Yeah.
And I had a blast. And I got super frustrated. And there was a lot of not family-friendly wording that was happening between takes.
Yeah.
When I realized that, you know, like my camera was just not working properly on my phone, or I'd get a call in the middle of a shot, or whatever it was that was going wrong. I know you've dealt with all of that stuff. Like,
yeah, I can't tell you how many podcasts I've recorded and lost them because I was, at the time, all I used was my phone, and I didn't know how to record it. Like, I was really just figuring it out, and it started with just an app. It started with the Anchor app, and I hit record, and it was like, hey, so this is, like, if you go back and listen to the first ones, it's really rudimentary of me going, hey, so I don't even know what I'm doing, but we're going to try this out. Here's what I got in my head, and I'll talk. And when I get done, I hit publish on my phone, and it publishes. The problem with using that app was they weren't really sure what they were doing either.
right.
Since then, they've gotten bought out by Spotify, and I think they figured out some of this stuff. But what would happen is, if I was in the middle of recording and somebody called me, all that stuff I just did is gone.
Right, it drops everything.
If I hit publish and it hadn't published, if it hadn't finished publishing by the time a phone call comes, I lost all of it.
Mm-hmm.
And so, like, I did one with my buddy Greg that literally we did like an hour and a half that was dynamite, and went to hit publish, and as my fingers going to it, my wife called me. I was like, no.
Oh my god.
So, and then I was like, all right, I'm going to figure out this thing with the laptop. So I got the laptop out, and I bought a USB mic that I plug in, and we did a group podcast with a bunch of us. I put it in the middle of the table and hit record, and we talked and talked and talked and talked. And I went to hit publish, and it lost it somehow on the computer. I don't know where it went.
Right.
This is before I was using GarageBand. I didn't really know how to integrate things into GarageBand. So then I find myself looking at other creators, and I'm like, okay, so what are you using? Like, I'm literally like reaching out to people,
mm-hmm.
and people reached out back, and they were like, hey, this is what I did.
Yeah.
Check out this video of so and so's that I followed, and I'm like, okay, that works, because like not everybody has the same equipment, but you kind of learn along the way of what programs talk to each other or how to pull things into other things, and so you go, okay, I can figure that out. Yeah, sure, why not? Luckily there's people out there that are real pros that will reach out once in a while and answer you back. Bert Kreischer has a podcast called The Bertcast. He has a sound engineer named Halston Ray. Halston is a musician, and he does podcasting now for, I think, 3 or 4 different podcasts, and he's making a living at it.
That's awesome.
Halston is actually very approachable.
Mm-hmm.
I've written him on Instagram and on Twitter, and he'll write back. He's like, hey, this is what I'm using. Good luck to you. And I'm like, thanks, buddy.
Yeah.
He'll give you information right back, and I'm like, he doesn't have to take that time. But it's one of those things where he's like, oh, it's a creator trying to create, and I don't mind giving you some heads up.
Well, I found that like typically people that are technical and that aren't necessarily like brand famous
mm-hmm.
tend to be a little bit more approachable, just because they don't get inundated with
right.
Hey, I love you, you're so amazing, or trash or trolls or whatever. That dude, I'd bet hard money on the fact that dude's inbox blows up far less than,
oh yeah, yeah, if he's doing Bert's podcast, Bert probably gets thousands of emails, and,
right.
and Halston probably gets
100. Right, 100.
Yeah.
Because he's a sound engineer.
Right.
Mainly the people getting in touch with him are going to be people
behind the scenes,
or people that are doing it themselves,
or other
like
creators.
we're trying to.
Yeah.
That's one thing, like, I want to try to stay as up with as possible is responding, is being in touch with people, is saying like, yeah, I love to hear from you, because honestly, I'm not doing this because I want to be in an echo chamber.
That was one of the things that I noticed on your video right away. You were like, hey, if anybody's into this and want to give me some feedback, let me know, and we'll have a conversation about it. And if I'm screwing up, let me know, and we'll do this back and forth. And that's sort of one of the things you want to keep doing is always remember that, treat it as like you're doing. Treat it as though somebody's right there on the other end going, so what? Really?
Yep.
I can just write you? Okay,
yeah.
cool. Hey,
well, that's so like one person, like, so there are a ton of people that influence every single one of us,
yeah.
right? And Terry Crews is one of those people for me. Like, the dude is an absolute angel of a human being. Like, I know we all have flaws, but it's hard to find somebody in Hollywood that has the humility that man has.
Mm-hmm.
He's so he throws himself into everything with this passion and with this excitement, and just tries to be as upbeat as possible. And that's something that for me, like, it's super important. I can wake up and I can choose my reaction. Yeah. I can't choose what happens to me, but I can choose how I react to what happens.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not about this fake veneer of positivity. It's about actually trying to have that, like, soul change where you're like, you know what? I'm not going to let this bother me.
Mm-hmm. It's growing up. It's maturity. It's learning how to deal with problems that are in front of you.
And it's so hard, and I'm not good at it.
I wrote some notes down here of things I listened to just in case, because I was going to do a different podcast before we decided to do this.
Mm-hmm.
But I just listened to Joe Rogan Experience interview Dakota Meyer, Medal of Honor winner Marine. He was in some giant conflict that happened September 8th in Afghanistan, and he was the only guy that survived out of his whole unit. And incredible story, but in his recovery, like, he talks about how he got in touch with other people who kind of helped him put into perspective what he was dealing with. And he talks about how how do you put it? There's some things that you can't control, like if you get cancer or a car wreck or something like that. He goes, everything else is just inconvenience. He said, so there's no reason to really get upset about it. It's just that you have to figure out a workaround. You have to figure out how you're going to process the information.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's really a good point. I mean, you know, I was in the Marine Corps, and part of that time period was them saying, be really comfortable being uncomfortable, because if you're fighting an enemy, they're going to be very uncomfortable as well. And if you're comfortable being uncomfortable, you're going to be hands above ready for anything that's going to happen.
Right.
And so, you know, they would make you be in uncomfortable positions all the time and just learn to be comfortable with it. Well, what could be less comfortable than being in front of an audience, like stand-up, or like in front of a camera and saying, hey, audience, I'm an idiot, and just voicing your flaws and talking about things that
Absolutely
is on your mind. And like you said, if you make mistakes, hey, watch me make a mistake, you know, and you can laugh at it, you can talk about it, who cares? But like if you've got some insight, give me some insight.
Yeah.
I made a video one time of using a flap disc to sand off rust or paint off of a car, and within a minute I knew this was a bad decision. But I literally titled the thing, What Not to Do with Your Flap Disc.
Right.
And people wrote me all the time, you're such an idiot. And I was like, I know, I did this video so you guys would know not to do this.
Absolutely. And that's one thing that, like...
Because I really thought, do I publish this? And I was like, yeah, why not?
Do it.
I screw up all the time, and I publish the screw ups too. I'm like, all right, you might as well see this part.
I would have published screw ups, but
yeah,
it was my camera.
The future is coming.
Yeah, the future is coming.
There's lots of screw ups coming. Stay tuned.
Oh yeah, and that's a huge thing for me with my story. You know, where I've been, where I've come from, dude. Learning to just kind of shunt your ego to the side and be like, you know what? It's not about me.
It's not about you.
It's about what's best for the community that I'm a part of, or what's best for the individual that I'm relating to in that moment. You know, and you're just gonna have to tell your ego to sit in the corner and shut up for a little while, because ego can be a good thing. It can be a very motivating factor, but too much of a good thing also can be just horrible. Like if all you ever eat is broccoli, that's not gonna be good for you.
Yeah, it doesn't turn out well. There's bad things that happen from that.
Oof.
So yeah, let's talk about you for a little bit, because like I don't know anything about you other than the fact that you bartend and you're into like a lot of the same things I'm into.
Yeah.
Are you from the area?
No. I was born in Orlando. My family was in Barbados for a few years in the late 80s, early 90s. And then back to Orlando. And then in 96 we moved to Columbia, South Carolina. I was there most of until 2014. I spent about a year and a half in Sarasota down there, which was awesome. And then 2014 I moved to Florence. I actually came here to go to rehab, and you know, had that, and that was not a fun experience, but it's exactly what I needed.
Yeah. So
I'm sitting at October 1st was 5.5 years clean and sober for me. And yes, I'm a bartender. I know that's weird. I equate it to like a really deadly shellfish allergy. Like, I was a chef for 15 years. Like, I can make you bomb shrimp and grits. Doesn't mean I can eat it, right? So I'll make you an awesome old-fashioned or margarita, but I just know that I have to stay away from it personally, because it's deadly for me.
Right.
And, you know, going through all of that,
a lot of soul searching.
It's a lot of soul searching. It's a lot of looking your demons in the face and being like, oh, like, I was not a good person. I'm trying to be a better person. That's part of why I am who I am today. So it's part of my story. And, you know, I have a lot of feelings about the stuff that I've done in the past, but it's all come together to make me who I am. So I'm trying to, instead of dwell on that and let it eat me alive, I'm trying to learn from it and be like, hey, let's try to not be an idiot like I was there. Like, I'll do different idiotic things in situations that I'm not aware of the answer to, but trying not to repeat the mistakes of my past.
Well, we all make mistakes, and that's the thing is, like, when you're dealing with addiction, it's so hard to get out of it, because like you said, you're literally allergic to the things that you thought were okay. And
well, you're allergic to, for me, that was my only coping mechanism.
Yeah.
for almost 10 years was doing all of that stuff. And so all of a sudden my coping mechanism is killing me.
Yeah.
And that's a dark place to be at, when you're so torn up about it, you don't know where to turn. Thankfully, I had some absolutely amazing people in my life at that point in time. And a few things happened, and I was able to go to rehab, and I spent 5 months there. And then I just stuck around in Florence because I knew I didn't have any history of bad behavior here. I knew I had a good community here already, that was supportive, that was encouraging, and that's when I started working at Tubbs. And I ended up working there for a year in the kitchen. Left on really good terms with those dudes because I wanted to go back to school. And now I'm back working with them at Hefe, and I love it. Those are great guys to work for.
Yeah.
I genuinely love all those guys.
I think that they're also in that frame of mind of creating and positivity and sort of branching out on their own in a way, freelancing in sort of a way, and the fact that they're trying something that not a lot of people are doing, and they're really putting it all out there, their heart and soul and blood and tears and all that stuff. And sometimes it pays off, and like we saw recently, sometimes it don't. I mean, with the Revival Burger.
But I'll say, mad props. They owned that.
Yeah. And you just keep plowing ahead. I mean, every day, a buddy of mine's mom once told me, she said, I was asking her about New Year's resolutions, and she goes, I don't believe in that. And I was like, what? She goes, every moment that you're alive, you can make a choice at any time to just go, you know what? I'm going to go that way because this way is not where I want to go. Yeah. And you can immediately just turn your feet, change your life. You don't have to wait for a day. No. You don't have to wait for some ceremony. You don't have to wait for any of that crap. She goes, literally, make up your mind. Choose a different path.
Right. And that's not to, belittle somebody that genuinely uses a ceremony or New Year's resolutions at all. Whatever it takes to enact that change in your life, to move you in a positive direction, that's gorgeous. And I know you weren't saying that at all.
But her telling me that when I'm 16 had an impact.
That's huge.
I mean, and the fact that I listened, it's very hard to listen when you're a kid.
When you're 16 years old, it's hard to listen to anyone.
She made that declaration, and it suddenly dawned on me, oh yeah, so many people think about this the wrong way. And I'm like, you're absolutely right.
Yeah. I can choose to be a better person. And it's not just in the morning. That's one really, really cliche thing that I learned in rehab is you can start your day at any time. Yeah. If it's lunch and you've been in a funk all day, you can choose to restart your day. Yeah. You can stop and center yourself and say, you know what, this isn't who I want to be today. Let me put that version of myself out there. Yeah. And you start living that way, and it starts becoming who you are.
Not only that, but you start finding yourself surrounded by people who are also like-minded. And then you go, oh, this is so much easier when I got a support group and when people around me are in the same frame of mind. Oh, wow, who would have thought?
I mean, I'm surrounded by some of the best people in the world. Not just here in Florence. I have friends all over the place that are so loving and so supportive. And it's hard. It's hard to feel like I deserve to have that.
Right.
Because I see them and they're so amazing. They're such wonderful people, and I'm like, who am I to have these people be invested in my life, to care? And that's a big problem with getting sober, with all of that. Looking at where I've been in my life, it's, I have done some things that I'm ashamed of, and so it's hard to change my mental image of myself. And that's something that I'm working on. It's a daily thing. Just actively talking to you, talking to other people. Silly little things like you taking the time to comment on my videos. Okay, you know what? That means a lot to me. Is when people say stuff and comment and are like, "Hey, we're loving this," because it lets me know that okay, I'm doing something that made somebody's day better.
Yeah. Let me reset this camera real quick. I just got to hit.
Uh-oh.
There we go. This is the thing I'm trying to figure out, this camera part. Anyway.
Right, I think...
Yours is good. Yours is still going.
Yeah, I'm still good. I still have an hour and a half of battery life.
Yeah.
And another 3 hours of video.
I'm not bragging or nothing.
I'm not.
Saying.
Hey, you hit me with the Apple thing earlier. Turnabout is fair play, my friend.
There you go. Touche. Yeah, I mean, I'm not unfamiliar with what you're going through. Being in the Marine Corps, obviously, I had friends who dealt with this as well. My stepson went through this. He almost died twice. And it's tough. It's very tough. And, there is no right answers, except what I've learned is, like, we put him through rehab, and he just didn't want to change. And it doesn't change until you want to change. Oh, yeah. And that's been a hard thing to accept, as a parent, as a caregiver, as a support, what you feel is your support group, and you're like, what have I done to make you not want to get better? And it's like, right. You start questioning everything, and we were really hoping that we heard a lot of people say, change of scenery helps, because then you're not around your same friends, you're around different people, you're kind of forced to navigate life differently in a lot of ways, and there is opportunity everywhere, but it's easier, from what I hear, when you're in a different territory. Now, he did try to go somewhere else, and it didn't work out. He ended up coming here, and again, it didn't work out. And it's been a process, but now he seems to be focused on the positive. He's focused on his son. He's focused on getting better. He's focused on his job, his relationship. He's got a girlfriend, and they seem to be doing okay. And knock on wood. Right. But it is a struggle for him, and he talks about that a lot, about, I made a lot of dumb mistakes, and I didn't realize what I was doing at the time, and I thought I was just having fun, and I didn't realize that everybody else around me was suffering. And it's like, well, yeah, I mean, it's hard to get through that. My uncle dealt with this as well, and my mom was worried that it was hereditary, so me joining the Marine Corps and drinking like a fish, she was like, oh my God, you've got it too. And I'm like, well, actually I don't. I'm lucky in the fact that genetically I don't seem to have that disposition. Right. I can buy beer and leave it in the fridge for a month and not touch it, or I can have one and go, I'm just gonna have one today. Right. And for them, it's like, how do you do that? I'm like, it's not a superpower for me, but I get the fact that it's. Oh,
I have no clue. Like,
I can't have anything. Like when he had to get dental work, he was like, don't even give me Novocaine. Yeah.
I have people that come in and sit down at the bar and drink half of a beer with their lunch, and then just leave the other half undrank. And for me, I have no clue how you do that. Right. Yeah. Which, mad props.
It's just it has nothing to do with anything with willpower. It has everything to do with just luck.
Right, and there's one thing that you brought up that I actually wanted to go back to and touch on, is the whole being a parent of somebody in addiction or in alcoholism. I'm not a parent. I don't know what it's like to be a parent in that situation, but I know what it's like to be in that situation. And I know what it's like to deal with parents that have dealt with me in that situation. And the one thing I have to keep reminding myself of, and I've had to tell my parents this several times, is look, I made my own decisions. Like, it's not like anyone sat there and funneled beer down my throat. It's not like anyone sat there and made me do drugs or made me do any of these things. I'm the one that actively decided to do these things. Yeah. And so I had to be the one to actively decide that I didn't want to do it anymore. Right. Which was, for me, it was really hard. I went through a big grieving process. I lost what I thought was my best friend, and that had been the one constant for me for almost 10 years, was drinking and using that as social lubricant and using that as a way to feel comfortable in my own skin around other people. Right. And that's something I still struggle with. Yeah. I can perform. When I'm behind the bar, it's like I'm on stage.
Yeah, because you could take on a persona of Danny the bar guy.
Well, it's me. It's just a little bit bigger version of me. Right.
I dealt with stuttering up until I was, I think, a senior in high school, and then it was tapering off, but it became less and less as I got into high school, and then at a certain point I'm in the Marine Corps and I'm instructing people how to do things on a stage, and I got 300 Marines around me in 4 different directions, and as I'm teaching them, a little voice in my head goes, hey dude, you hadn't stuttered in a long time. And I'm like, oh wow, you're right, Yeah. But it's like, I heard the phrase, fake it till you make it. Yep. And, there's wrestlers that talk about how they became wrestlers and they, I'm going to be this guy, I'm going to be this loud, boisterous, woo, look at me, And they're terrified in the meanwhile, but they're like, I'm just going to keep doing this. And after a while, it becomes more of who you are, and you get more comfortable, and you're like, I'm not even pretending anymore. Like, this is all comfortable. Right. And that's kind of how this YouTube thing has come about for me, is in the beginning, I'm hitting record, I'm like, what do I even talk about? But it's
Well,
a muscle that you can use, and like as you're learning to do the interaction at work and on camera, then it just bleeds into everything else you do, because every interaction you have with everybody throughout your life then becomes a lot easier, because you're like, oh, I know how to talk to people. I do it all the time.
right.
Yeah.
And that's one thing, like, it is a muscle. It's something that you have to exercise.
Yep.
Me, I happen to exercise it a lot. You know, I'm doing this stuff. I'm behind a bar 5 days a week.
But you see a lot of customers who, let's face it, a lot of them have their face buried in their phone,
Mm-hmm.
and they don't know how to have conversations.
Oh, that's one of my biggest pet peeves.
They'll sit next to each other and not have
Yeah,
conversations.
if you're going out to eat with somebody, put your phone away, please. Like, engage
Yep.
with them. If it's an emergency, that's one thing, but like, engage with the people. Take some time to connect with other people in a real and genuine manner, face to face. Not saying that online can't be real and genuine at all. I love YouTube. They're content creators that I believe are totally real and genuine, and I love watching.
There's a time to connect with the world, and there's a time to connect with each other. And if you're out, especially if you're out on a date with each other,
oh yeah,
come on, you got to do yourself a favor and pay attention to the person who's in front of you, because you may be missing an opportunity to meet somebody who's really great, or you're missing an opportunity to identify that they're a psychopath and you need to get out of there.
Absolutely. Like, you can't see red flags when you're looking at your phone.
Yeah, I mean, there's no telling what's going on when you're not looking up.
Yep.
But pay attention, talk to people, ask them about their day, ask them about where they're from, ask them the weird questions that you wouldn't think they'd automatically want to talk about. Like, you might be on a first date and be like, so you believe in aliens?
Right.
Just see where it goes.
I would much rather sit there and talk about whether or not somebody believes in aliens than talk about, the weather or, what politics did this week. Like, if I just met you, I don't want to talk about politics yet. Like, I want to get into the weird, the wonky aliens and nerdy stuff and all that. Like, that's just me, though. And we all know I'm atypical.
I'm just going to let that hang there. You guys, you hear the silence?
Yeah. Oh, that's beautiful.
Well, I wasn't really prepared to go in that direction, but I feel like if you wanted to talk about it, you would, and if you didn't, you wouldn't. And
I'm very open.
I can talk about anything, so I mean that's fine.
Well, one thing I do want to make like totally clear to people, I'm very, very, very open about my story. I will be very, very, very closed about anyone else's story.
Right.
Don't pry into people that I may know or whatever. Like, that's not something that I'm at liberty to talk about. If you have questions for me about anything, hit me up. I'll do my best to answer them, and at the worst, I'll be like, hey, I really appreciate that, but that's not something that I feel like is appropriate for me to talk about.
If for anything else, I feel like if you live through something, no matter what it is, it's an opportunity to communicate with somebody about your experience, and maybe it'll help somebody realize what they're going through, or what a loved one is going through, or if for nothing else, it opens the door for conversation of, oh my God, my dad dealt with that, or my sister dealt with that, and let's talk about it, and it creates conversation, and if nothing else, it kind of helps you understand that we are not alone,
right,
and that it's okay to not be okay.
And it is absolutely okay to not be okay. It's one of those things, like, what was the saying? It's okay to not be okay, but it's not okay to stay that way.
Yep.
But yeah, like what you were saying about, like, being able to talk to somebody else about it, that doesn't mean that you're as public as I am about it.
Right.
Maybe it's on a much more personal level. I was really, really public about what I did when I was drinking and when I was abusing substances and stuff. And so I'm pretty public about me now. I don't want to get in anyone's face about it. Mm-hmm. If you want to ask me questions, if you want to bring it up, I will talk. It's not something that I try to bring up and put into conversation all the time. I would rather talk about what you want to talk about, learn about you.
Well, and it becomes building blocks, because let's just say that your life is a house. This is just one of the bricks.
Yeah.
This is one of the bricks, and without that brick, the house doesn't stand up.
Right.
It's still a brick.
Right. It's a big part of who I am, but it's not the totality of who I am.
Right. But you gotta recognize it and be honest about it and say, hey, listen, I have this one brick. that I want to talk about because this is part of what makes me.
Oh yeah.
And we all have that. We all have some version of that in our lives.
I mean, Disney films are also a pretty big brick.
Yeah.
Right? Like the old Fred Astaire and Ginger Rogers films. That's a big part of things for me.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like comic books, video games, making stuff. You know, the fact that my dad, when I was, 5 and 6 years old, he had me out in the garage building bookcases with him and doing woodworking. And that's a big part of who I am. You learn to work with your hands that young, it starts to instill a love for that and a passion for that, which I find absolutely awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. My granddaddy tried to get me outside all the time. Here, bang this nail into that wood. Okay. I remember banging countless nails into wood with a hammer. And I still, there's a romantic thing with me every time I smell freshly cut wood.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just like, I remember hanging out with my granddads, both my granddads. I mean,
oh yeah,
but that all that comes back to you, and then when you're out there doing it, you're like, oh man, if they could see me now, they'd be so happy.
Right.
Yeah, it's. But and I'm a grandfather now, so I'm like, all right, he's 3. At what point can I put a power tool in his hand?
That's the point I'm waiting. Like, I think either this coming summer or the summer after, I'm stealing my brother's kids for a week.
There you go.
Like right now they're 8 and 10, and I'm just gonna take them.
Let's build a bird.
I already told my brother, I was like, dude, I'm taking your kids for a week, probably this coming summer, and he was like, really? Like, you promise? Like, because they're awesome kids, and
how old are they?
8 and 10.
Oh, perfect.
Right?
Yeah.
And so I want them to come to Florence and hang out with me for a week and make weird stuff and get on some videos and like, let's just have fun for a week.
Yeah.
Let me teach you how to use your hands a little bit. Let's go to thrift stores and buy weird junk for $5, like
make something creative out of it.
Yeah,
make them think outside the box.
Absolutely, and they already play with Legos a ton.
That's good,
which is huge.
That's a big start.
That's a big start. That's spatial awareness. That's creativity. That's also learning how to follow plans and stuff. It's a lot of stuff. Lego is my favorite toy.
Yeah.
Bar none. They own all my Legos.
My job, delivering food to customers.
It's basically just Tetris.
Whenever you're building a hand truck, it's like Legos, but you got different size pieces.
Mm-hmm.
Oh no, those have to go on the bottom, and those can go here. But if you put them side by side, maybe you can do something like this. And
absolutely.
Your brain starts putting this together, and then when you get it all done, especially when I have some new guy, he's like, "How did you figure all that out?" I'm like, "Legos."
Legos and Tetris.
I play with Legos a lot.
Absolutely. They're phenomenal.
I knew those pieces would fit together just right. It would work, and I don't know how I can't explain it.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, that's good. I mean, you definitely want to pass it forward, which I think is sort of what this YouTube stuff could be as well.
Yeah.
I mean, I was telling somebody the other day, I said, what I wouldn't give for a video of my granddad as a boy.
Oof.
And to watch him, learn the things that he knows how to do, and then, or his dad, showing what he knew how to do when he farmed and stuff. And a lot of that's lost now, but it doesn't have to be anymore.
It doesn't.
Like we can literally from now just record whatever, put it out there. I've got, see those 2 boxes over there? They're full of VHS tapes that were recorded by my grandparents. There's one of those boxes has my name on every one of the tapes, and I'm like, what is this?
How old are you?
So I bought the VCR on eBay.
Yeah, I noticed that one.
I've got a little converter box ordered.
Is that where you had to pop it open to get the tape out?
Yep. So I've got the converter box ordered. It's coming on a slow boat from China, and when it gets here, supposedly I can plug it into it and hit play, and then have it record onto a little SD card.
Yeah.
And then I can upload it to the computer and look at it through here and like manipulate it, cut it, whatever I want to do. There is so much stuff on there that I know is usable. The first tape I put in was one that I recorded in '89, visiting my dad. I was 15 years old, and I'm the one recording the whole time. At a certain point, the big camera with the battery on the back, on your shoulder. At a certain point, I turn it around at myself and I go, "Hey!" And I flex my arm, and a little tiny 15-year-old arm.
Right.
But I'm looking at my face, and immediately I saw my youngest boy in the screen, and I was like, "Oh my God, looks just like Jacob." And I was like, "Holy cow!" I took a screenshot with my phone and put it on social media. I was like, "Holy crap! I can't believe this is me at 15."
That's so cool.
But I'm looking at the fact that there is a good 30 minutes that I recorded of a parade, where everybody in the parade could go back and if they're online, go, you know, I was in the Lobster Day Parade in Rockland, Maine in '89. Oh, look, there I am. Look how young I was. I'm riding in so-and-so's car.
That would be
and
so
there's
cool
this
for them to
person.
have access to.
Yeah, and I thought, what if I just break this up and put it online?
Yeah.
I mean,
Just as like archival footage.
there's
right?
nothing incriminating on it. We're not being awful on it. I mean, it's fairly harmless. There's one video of I got towards the last half of the tape is me recording a race up in Unity Raceway in Maine.
Mm-hmm.
And I got the announcer on there talking about so-and-so's in the lead, blah, 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 blah. And I thought, what if I put it online? There's guys that are race car drivers now that are retired, or some of them have passed away by now.
Right.
They can go back, their families can go back on and go, oh, look, that was that race. I remember going there when I was a kid. Look at him go. He won that race.
Dude,
I forgot he won that race.
You've got to get that stuff up online.
I'm just like, oh, that's going to be so cool.
Right.
So, and there's, like I said, countless tapes over there. Some of it may not be worth anything. There may not be anything on it. But I thought, that was really kind of YouTube before YouTube.
Right.
And it's
those big cameras where you actually put the VHS tape in the camera. Oh yeah.
But now all that stuff's accessible, and my wife was like, "Oh, I've got like those little discs." She goes, "I got a bunch of those discs in the closet in there too." And I was like, "We can look through those too." That little box just plugs up. It's got three, the red, white, yellow cable.
Right. The RGB.
I can take that camera that's in the closet, put them in there, and just plug it in and play it.
RCA cables. Yes.
RCA cables, yeah. I can plug it in, play it, and then put it on that SD card thing, and then I got them on here. So
why not, man?
Why not?
Like, have fun.
Yeah.
Get those videos.
Yeah.
See what ridiculousness you got up to when you were a teenager.
Yeah.
How much of the stuff have you forgotten, right?
Well, I know for a fact they came to visit me at my 16-year-old birthday party. We had an above-ground pool in the back, and I broke my fist over a girlfriend. So there's video image of me swimming around in the pool with my arm above the water, so I don't get. I'm swimming like this.
That's amazing.
With my arm in the water.
Yes.
And I thought, how silly is that?
Right.
I had gone to visit my dad one time when that happened, and there was a river there nearby where they went swimming, and I'm swimming in the river, and he's like, "You look like the guy in Deliverance with his arm up in the air." And I was like, I was too young to know what Deliverance was. I later saw it and thought, oh, okay, yeah, I see what he sees.
Yeah. That's phenomenal.
But yeah, I was like, oh wow, all that's like, that it's archival, but it's also, sort of like a timestamp that we forget about.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if everybody else is looking at their social content like that, but it really can be, because like, I got kids now that are adults, adult-ish I call it.
Yeah.
But they're going to have kids one day. And at some point in their lives they're going to go, let's see what dad's got. Oh my God, there's this old video of my dad. Oh look, I look like my dad,
Absolutely.
Or they'll have kids that look like me and they're like, oh my God, you look just like my dad.
Yeah, I mean, like,
That'd be far out.
it's so cool to have that stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, that's part of why I'm uploading what I'm uploading is like,
Sure.
I want my nephews to have a chance to see what I get up to when I'm not working.
And you get a creative side of you that you get to show off that you don't normally get to show people.
Absolutely, and that's and Instagram was my outlet for that for a while, and it still is.
Yeah.
But I mean, really talking to you is what was like, maybe I should do a YouTube channel.
Why not?
Why not? I mean, I'm having a blast. I'm like I tell a lot of people, like it's not a bad habit to have. You can have far worse habits.
Yeah.
And so it's a good way for me to be engaged in being creative. Since I'm uploading stuff, it gives me a sense of urgency. Like, oh, I haven't uploaded anything in a couple of days. I need to do something. And then you get that video uploaded and you've been creative and you've learned how to work your camera better, work with audio better. Dude, I get to learn stuff.
Yeah.
I'm so excited about that.
I mean, and I'm 45 and I'm still learning. My dad's in his late 50s and he's still learning stuff. He's like, I bought this new camera, and he's telling me all about it. He got one of those DJI Osmo with the gimbal,
yes,
the little head.
Oh,
he's
man.
like, dude, this is sick. This thing is so sick. He's showing me what all it does. He's all geeking out about it, and he's like, man, this is all. He's like, it didn't have the. He's talking about. He wanted to be able to sit it up on things, but the tripod thing that it had for it wasn't stable enough, so he made one out of like JB Weld.
Right.
And like built a cast for it so it fit into it, and then let it dry and spray painted it, and he's got another thing, so now he can just sit it anywhere and it sits stable. And I was like,
oh,
that's so cool, man. He's like, and I made videos about how to make it. And I was like,
of course
you did.
That's so awesome, man.
Why wouldn't you?
Yeah, I mean that's super cool.
Yep.
Man.
So yeah. Well, cool, man. We're getting close to an hour, and we can wrap this up if you're good. You got anything else?
I'm good, dude.
You want to promote? I know the stuff I kind of care about on YouTube.
Yeah. Are we not going to talk about that, by the way?
We can talk about it.
How both of us started with stuff?
Yeah.
Like,
one of us started way before the other one, but okay.
oh,
Whatever.
oh.
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I've had stuff I kind of care about for like almost 2 years. How long have you been doing stuff?
Stuff I heard is year and a half, so maybe a year.
We actually probably.
Maybe
How funny would it be if we went back and we started like within a month?
I know it was in May. It was May, like a year and a half ago.
Let me see when my first
Because I did
Instagram post.
I made the Instagram, the Twitter, and the Gmail account, and then I made the podcast after I had those already set up because I didn't want to take the chance that there was already the same name out there.
January 12th, 2018.
So just a few months.
We're right by each other.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah. I was trying to think of names. I was like, I don't want to be like, specific on a title because I don't want to talk about just one thing.
Just like this one thing.
Yeah.
That's why
I wanted to make it general. I wanted to make it about anything.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, I'm literally consuming content all the time and creating all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And why would I want to limit it to just one thing when I can do everything? Because I got friends of mine that, one of them want to start a pickleball podcast. Josh Weston talking to you. Still hasn't done it.
Right.
2 years later, he still hasn't done it. I mean, I'm not calling him out or anything on a podcast that everybody's listening to on the World Wide Web.
Why would you?
But, just saying, if he wanted to do it, he could have done it by now with some help. I mean, I've more than been willing to help him. So, shout out to Josh West. Hope you guys are doing well in Baltimore, Salisbury, Maryland there. If you know him, give him some harassment from me. I know he doesn't listen to this podcast. So
You are cruel, and I love it.
I love you. You know I do.
I have nothing to do with that, by the way. That's not me.
But rather than be a specific topic, which is I think why he didn't do it, because it was like he didn't want to like discredit the game or not be specific enough and have information enough that he wanted to. He felt like he'd fall short, and I was like.
Right.
Well, yeah, you kind of pigeon yourself with what you want to talk about. I mean, which is fine. There's a niche for everything, and if you have a niche market for that, you can really make that your thing.
Absolutely.
I was like, but
I mean, there are people that literally just do unboxings.
but until you do something, you're just talking about it.
Yeah.
So that's what separates me from him.
Yeah.
That's what separates you from somebody else.
Yeah.
You decided to do it, and you just did it.
Yeah. I mean, stuff I kind of care about is very much what I am. Like, I'm one of those jack of all trades, master of none is oftentimes better than a master of one. Like, and yes, that's the full saying. Nobody knows it.
Yeah.
Anyways, I digress. But yeah, like for me, I love learning. I love exploring new avenues. I want to know everything. And so for me, stuff I kind of care about, like, yeah, I can make any video I want. I can literally make a video about doing a podcast and then a couple weeks later go make a video about blacksmithing, and they both fit under that brand.
Right.
And that's why I think like both of our brands are actually pretty well thought out, pretty smart, because it frees us up to do kind of whatever we want to do and follow our passions.
Not to say that if you want to start one, you have to go with that mentality. You can literally name it,
Whatever.
Fuzzy Oranges, and then just
Right.
that be the funny name that you use.
I mean, like Vsauce is a thing. Like, Vsauce is a massively followed channel. I have no clue what Vsauce means. It doesn't appear.
I have an idea.
It doesn't appear to actually
off
like.
camera.
Right. It doesn't appear to actually have any bearing on what he talks about.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
And like, all of a sudden, he's this really popular dude. And again, he's awesome. If you haven't seen his videos, you should probably check them out. But yeah, like, that's crazy how branding can work. Like, yeah, it can be this like super intensive thought process like I went through of like, oh my god, beating my head against a wall trying to figure out what I'm gonna call my Instagram.
I literally had a conversation with my wife, and she was like, what do you want to talk about? And I was like, I don't know, stuff I heard. She goes, there's your name. I went, okay.
And bingo was his name-o.
Ta-da!
I love it. That's fantastic.
So, but yeah, cool. I'm going to wrap this up before my camera has to be reset again.
Oh yeah.
Cursed camera.
We don't want that to happen.
Yeah. But we'll do this again.
Yeah, man.
Check out his YouTube page and his Instagram, and give them a shout out. Tell them you heard them here, and
Yeah.
we're gonna sharecast this. If you're watching this on Janny's channel, you can
Yeah.
check me out at Stuff I Heard. It can be found everywhere: Instagram, Twitter, all that stuff, Facebook. But yeah,
Yeah, I mean everything. I'm gonna have links below in the description to everything, both of our channels, Instagram, Twitter, all that stuff. And then I'm actually probably gonna edit mine down a little bit, just because I don't want to do an hour-long video.
you can.
I know I can, but
I do.
I kind of want to shorten and sweeten it up a little
Okay.
bit.
You can have clips.
Have some good highlight
You
clips.
can have clips.
I could just cut it into like several episodes,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But this is awesome. Thank you so much.
Yeah, and we'll do it again. I
Yeah.
mean,
And please, like, be in touch. Like, comment. Hit me up on Instagram. Hit me up on YouTube, on Twitter. I don't really care. Just talk to me. Like, I love hearing from people. In case you haven't noticed, I love talking. And so I would love to get to know some new people and talk about creative stuff or talk about what is going on in your life and just see what we can do to build a better community where we actually explore bringing positivity to the world. And that's why I'm so excited to work with Josh and like actually accomplish things is, hey, sometimes the world can be a rough place, but
Yep.
we don't have to be that way.
and you don't have to do it alone.
Absolutely.
Yep. All right, cool, man. That's a good way to end it. I always end my audio podcast by saying, cue the cow.
All right.
And then I put in a thing there that says, move.
I love it.
All right, cool.